So we're going to start with Einat Litchtinger, talking about at-risk students and implications for teachers. So I'll let you introduce yourself more, if you like.
My name is Einat Litchtinger. I work at Oranim Educational College in Israel, and I teach self-regulation, research and self-regulation. In this conference, I noticed that I teach in the research agency, but I didn't knew it before. So you'll have to make the connections between the two terms, like in the lecture you gave David in the morning of yesterday. I'm sorry, I'll be reading. That's why I wanted a poster on my side. I hope it will be understood. The study I show you here examined the effect of intervention program that promote self-regulation in at-risk youth on self-identity and motivation of the teachers. Self-identity of teacher can be defined as the sum of their perception and images of their self and the way they explain themselves to others. Identity is a result of an interplay between the teacher background, the teacher experience, and the context in which she or he works. At times, as a result of environmental pressure, alienation from the system, or personal circumstances, teacher experience their identity as fragile and feel tension between its components. Their ability to rebuild their goal, to achieve their goals, is dependent on their capacity to rebuild the identity in such situation. And this is the way they express the agency, right? A primary motivational factor associated with teacher identity is their self-efficacy. Their belief about their ability to teach effectively and to get the student to feel involved in the classroom. Another important motivational factor is the achievement goals that the teacher set for themselves. Both affect teacher satisfaction and commitment, as well as the student achievement and well-being. The question of identity and motivation arises particularly among teachers who work with at-risk youth. I teach this teacher on their master degree. So I work with a teacher who work with very, very difficult areas in our place. This teacher are exposed to non-normative behavior, frequently without sufficient support. This may cause a reciprocal influence between the difficulties of the student and the difficulties of the teachers. This teacher values and their professional components are highly significant for the student's chances for success. Hence, there is a need to strengthen their identity and self-motivation, motivation and self-regulation as well. The goal of the intervention programs that promote self-regulation is to improve the motivation and achievement of the students, and indirectly their social and emotional well-being. The main idea is that the teacher lets the students set goals for themselves and then monitor and evaluate their progress. This research demonstrates that the act of implementing such programs can play a role in boosting the motivation and self-identity of the teachers themselves. I study the teachers, not only the students. Methodology. Okay, so the aim is to study what happened to the teacher during the intervention program. Method. The research was qualitative, using top-oriented multiple case study. The study participants were 30 teachers of at-risk youth who attended a course on self-regulation and learning as part of the master program in Oranim Academic College, my course, for a few years. An effort was made to assemble a heterogeneous sample in terms of the years they took the course, their gender, age, and nationality. We had Jews and Muslims and Christian Arabs and Druze and Bedouin, all of them students in the same together. In the first semester of the course, the teacher mapped the self-regulation profile of the student And then I met with each one of them, and together we created an intervention program that based on the students' needs. The program were conducted over a period of approximately 4 or 5 months in parallel with the second semester of the course. As part of the intervention, I tell you a little about the intervention because I love them so much, but I do them for a few years now, and they are very successful, but it's not exactly the aim of the research. As part of the intervention, the teacher assisted the student in setting learning, motivational, and social goals for themselves as group and as individuals. And I remind you, it's a very, very difficult student, from the worstest places you can think of. The student monitors their progress by means of tables, evaluating their performance and awarding themselves prizes. They want to make celebrations or have tests to get good grades or things like that. Some of the intervention programs were aimed at helping student preparation for tests or learning assignments, while others emphasized controlling their behavior in the classroom and emotional social skills. Like he talked yesterday, if you remember, he talked about the cognitive self-regulation and the emotional self-regulation, and we worked on both sides. The student gave the direction of their goals. In general, this intervention program boosted the student learning and social achievements and strengthened their motivation. The study was about the teacher and was based on their self-report using a number of tools. First, reflective writing that was written as regular basis on during the course. Second, final papers that was written on conclusion of the course. And third, interviews that were conducted with each teacher participant a year later. What happened? I wanted to know what happened a year later. The various materials were tested by 2 researchers using a content analysis method. I prepared some quotation for you so you can follow me later. Behind. The findings. The analysis of the different cases yields 3 models of change processes experienced by the teacher. It's all self-report, right? The teacher in the first model, it's not yet, I'll tell you. The teacher in the first model described changes related to both the role with the student and the interaction with the school as a whole. This model characterized the majority of the teachers who participated in the study, more than a half. Before implementing the program, and then you can see it here, most of the teachers expressed concern regarding their ability to help these students. For example, it's not easy with this class, my expectations are not very high. They say, don't accept too much. But in the course of the program, when they had begun to see an improvement in the student performance, the teacher reported a rise in their self-efficacy and motivation. I could see how it's coming because I have the reflection during the whole program, so I can see the development of their construction of self-regulation, self-efficacy. For example, one of the teachers described her feeling. I could see a steady improvement, she said. There were fewer incidents of lateness. You work with them getting in the class. By the 3rd class, most of the students were liable to internationally easy quiz, and they finished the lesson with high marks. They're excited, and mine were tremendous. That's only so little number of quotes. I have a lot of them. The teacher described changes in their professional identity. Like one said, experiencing the program revealed my abilities to me. With the difficulties typical to excluded students, it is possible to achieve success with them if we believe in them. 2 things, if we believe in them, and if we teach them how to plan, monitor, evaluate themselves, the self-evaluation. Many teachers So the partnership with the student, this is one of the main findings. The partnership of the student is the major factor of the program's success. They wrote that the program taught them to transfer responsibility to the students. The fact that the student also expressed the desire and need to change the status quo formed the basis to the starting of the program, they say. A unique figure of this, the first model, was that this teacher expressed a desire and to convey the knowledge and to influence the system of the school. They said, this program was a success, and this encouraged me to pass it to the rest of the teacher at my school, with the aim of integrating self-regulation into everyday practice there. A small number of teachers even reported that they took steps during the year to introduce self-regulation into the school. Some of them were part of the management. They were quite old and professional teachers. For example, by working jointly with other teachers or giving in-service training to the teacher staff. The teacher also reported changes that has implemented in their own self-regulation, as reflected in their even in their personal life, when they cook, when they raise a child. In the interview 1 year later, the teacher in the first model reported that they were continuing to use the tools of self-regulation in the classroom, and that this has led to a change in their self-perception, but only a small number of teachers reported making changes in the school level during that year. It was clear that the progress at the institutional level has been limited. And that's a very interesting point for me, as I want to make a change, and the change is institutional, so what happened? The teacher of the second model, we have 3 models, reported a partial process that touched only the handling the student, but not the institutional aspect. The process they described took place only strictly in the realm of the classroom and didn't deal with the systematic change. The second model included lower number of teachers than the first one. Alongside with the satisfaction of the teacher progress, some of these teachers cited the limitation and difficulties created by their schools. Like she said, I know I'm doing the right thing, but I feel like the system is standing in my way. The school as an institution was seen by them as an outside body, beyond their control, that didn't support the process they were engaged on, and even liable to hinder them, which is typical to teachers. I believe not only in my place. They feel suffocated by the system sometimes. The third model characterized a very small number of teachers who reported that the program didn't lead to sustained change for them. Those teachers described a slow progress of the student and attribute the difficulties to external factors. The class isn't mine, don't have enough hours with them. 1 year later, they report that the program has left no impression on them. Not like the first and the second model, that they continue to do things. I'm in a discussion and 3 minutes is enough. An analysis of the self-report of the study participant illustrate how implementing the intervention program produced changes in the teacher perception of themselves and rising their self-efficacy, as we saw. 2 major points. The salient differences between the 2 first models. Who experienced the program as successful, yes, but the difference concerns the self-efficacy to affect the school system. The fact that sizable proportion of the teacher in the first model felt able to affect the work setting by the programs strengthened their identity and somehow enhance or empower their agency, right? The way to express themselves. They could express themselves in their environment. It's very important for them. However, in most cases, the plans for the school as a whole had not advanced significantly. This apparently from the steps of a difficulty of driving changes in the complex system of schools. And it is obviously the weak point of the self-regulation programs described here. An important factor contributing to the program was the active partnership with the student, which is a very big change from what they did before, even though they were quite qualified and good teachers. An intervention program aimed at promoting self-regulation creates such partnership by its very nature, since it based on goal setting together with the student and their monitoring and evaluation, which affect the program afterwards. Partnership with the student is also part of shaping pedagogy suited for youth at risk. According to approaches like Schultz and Character and Elkins, people who deal with this population, teachers who work with youth at risk must focus more on the students than on the learning materials, perhaps all the teachers. By offering the student a choice of task and modes of learning and opportunity to get involved in the classroom, this enables the student to make their voices heard. Minute, okay? To break the cycle of social exclusion of at-risk youth, there must be a significant adult who form a meaningful bond with them. In many cases, this figure can and should be the teacher. The present study demonstrated that intervention programs aimed at promoting self-regulation of at-risk youth can empower those teachers and improve their ability to cope with those students. This is the end of it. The study points the need to future work on the subject of self-regulation programs of at-risk students. Further study is needed to examine. I'm doing this now. This is a far away study, but I'm doing now research about the effect of the programs on the students themselves, and to learn how the intervention program function in the field and how they can be implemented more effectively at the institutional level, which I explained. Thank you.